Okay, I'm finally doing the spoiler review of Fantastic Four First Steps, and the first thing that I have to say is that when I originally watched the movie, I was super impressed by the scene in which they're running away from Galactus and the Silver Surfer, and Sue Storm is about to give birth. Because if you remember the movie, you know that there are a lot of things going on at the same time. Sue is about to give birth. Silver Surfer is chasing them. Johnny is unable to shoot her because they're traveling through a wormhole that warps space and time as we know it, and they're about to use a black hole as a means of propulsion because their ship is damaged. What impresses me the most about this sequence is that the script had to be super detailed and specific to make it work, and they actually pulled it off. Additionally, it has an overall vibe reminiscent of Interstellar, Christopher Nolan's sci-fi movie released back in 2014. Although I didn't love that film, I think Nolan effectively utilized the astrophysics explained throughout the dialogue as part of the plot. I believe Marvel used some scenes in Interstellar as inspiration, and I think it worked. I also really enjoyed seeing Franklin use his powers because the whole movie revolves around Galactus trying to kidnap him under the explanation that he's a being of infinite power. I would have been a bit disappointed if we hadn't seen him use any of his abilities. And bringing back his mom after she was completely depleted after facing Galactus all by herself was the perfect moment to see him showcase his powers. My only concern is that maybe deaths in the MCU are not going to be that important moving forward. I mean, we already have variants of every character because of the multiverse, but now there's someone who can actually revive anyone he wants. I don't know if Marvel plans to set some limits on his powers. For example, I believe that in the comics, Reed Richards places some mental barriers on his son so he forgets that he has any powers at all and can only remember them once a year. I don't know if they're planning to do that, but it would make sense given that Franklin is already getting older and he will probably become too powerful too fast if he starts to control his powers. It's not like Jack from The Incredibles, who also possesses a lot of powers, but he doesn't get to regulate them at full capacity because he remains a toddler. Another of the things that gave me a bit of mixed feelings was the scene when Galactus is torturing Mr. Fantastic by stretching him against his will. At first I was surprised by the cruelty displayed by Galactus, but when he finally left Richards alone, I was like, hey, he's not that stretchy. I mean, Mr. Fantastic is supposed to be much more elastic, even if he looks silly. And now that we're talking about the ending, I think we can say that the way that they defeated Galactus was, well, interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed how Invisible Woman was able to use her power, probably increased by her desire to save her own son, to stand up to Galactus, and how Silver Surfer saved the day by giving him the last push so he could go to the portal. But as I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, I think this choice was rather convenient because this will allow Marvel to bring back Galactus at any point in time if they find it necessary. Which is fine because the writers do have a difficult job to do. They need to create a memorable villain, but they also need to showcase how the heroes can defeat any threat. And this has been Marvel's biggest challenge since the beginning, to make the heroes able to beat any bad guy, and thus giving every movie an episodic feeling with no real threats, or to make the villain escape somehow and risking a sense of conclusion at the end of the movie. However, in order to make a villain more interesting, I think we need a bit of backstory on the character, and I don't think we get that with Galactus, who only explains that he was also small like the Fantastic Four. This is not the case with Loki or Thanos, probably two of the MCU's most transcendental villains. And throughout the movie, I think this also happens with our heroes. I think that my biggest problem with this movie is that it relies too much on telling and not really showing, and even that telling doesn't include an explanation. For example, when they mentioned that Reed Richards had to assemble a team of scientists and that team consisted of his wife, his best friend, and his brother-in-law, like, I know that this is how the story is supposed to go, but maybe some explanation would have been nice. But anyway, I felt that I needed to create a spoiler review to mention some things that I liked and some things that actually I did not enjoy too much. But what do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm nitpicking? Comment below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and for now, I'm out.